think there are four options in particular that make the most sense. And one of them actually became available this Tuesday, which kind of really led me to be like, all right, let's talk about this running back situation because I think it is worth diving into. And let's go with the first one. I think the first one for me, and maybe this is the best option available, Daryl Williams from Kansas City. Just 27 years old. He had over 500 rushing yards last year, also had 450 plus receiving yards. I think he's a player whose best football is yet to come. And if you're the Saints, you might want to kind of jump in on that. And you might want to be able to get that player and add him to your team. And yeah, maybe his best football from a production standpoint might not be yet to come because if he goes on the Saints and Kamara's not suspended, what is his role? It's probably not huge, right? But let's say Kamara does miss time. Is Daryl Williams a player who can step in and make plays? Absolutely. Because I just saw it last season with Kansas City when Clyde Edwards-Helaire went down. Daryl Williams stepped up. And I think he's a player who at this stage in his career, he's got fresh legs. He can kind of check off both boxes, right? Because I think when you're adding a running back, you want to be more than just a runner. And I will say, although I did like the idea of Sony Michel joining the Saints, Sony Michel is primarily kind of a short yardage back. Don't expect him to just be this do-it-all player because that's not him. I think Daryl Williams might be kind of like a do-it-all player, but maybe the production just isn't amazing, right? But he can check off boxes. I've seen him play well as a receiver. I've seen him play well in that goal line situation. And if you're the Saints, you'll take another goal line back every day of the week. So I think Daryl Williams from Kansas City makes a hell of a lot of sense. He's still on the open market. I thought he would have gotten a deal already. Nothing crazy, but I thought a team would have signed him. So for him to still be out there, I think that's a really good option for the Saints. If the Saints are, interested in adding another running back, and since they showed interest in Sony Michel, I'd say the answer is yes there. He's a guy that they should consider. The second one is Devonte Booker. He's a little bit older, 29 years old, but I thought anyone who watched the Giants last year would come away with the takeaway that he was their best running back. And yes, that might sound like a ridiculous statement because they have Saquon Barkley on your roster, but you got to kind of look at what they did and not what their name is. And I think for Devonte Booker, he's another player. He's going to run in between the tackles fairly well, 4.1 yards per carry against behind a pedestrian offensive line in New York. He's a solid receiver out of the backfield. Nothing special there, but he will check off that box. And I think something that Devonte Booker does really well, and that's probably what I like best about him, you're going to get an above-average pass protector. And I think that's something that when you play the running back position, you got to be able to do it. And that's something that Mark Ingram is really great at. And I think Devonte Booker, if he came to New Orleans, A, he's not costing you much. B, he checks off a lot of boxes. And C, let's be real, it's a one-year deal for a guy like Devonte Booker at this stage in his career. He's probably just going to keep bouncing around teams because he's good enough to play for them, but maybe not good enough for them to say, hey, we want you here for the long haul. And that's okay. Like running backs kind of know that's the game right now. It's unfortunate, but they know it. They're not naive to that. So Devonte Booker for me is another option that's kind of behind door 2. Behind door 3, this might be the name that intrigues you guys the most, but it might be the riskiest. But it might have the most upside. So it's whatever game you want to play here. If you want to play high risk, high reward, this is your guy. Behind door 3, Tariq Cohen. Let's just cut to the chase. When he's healthy, Tariq Cohen's a good football player. And when I mean good, I mean he's a guy who's a legit weapon at wide receiver. He's not only going to be a shifty back, he's someone that, honestly, you could throw the ball to him 60, 70 times a year, and you will get that type of production. In 2018, when he was healthy, and I know this seems like light years ago because it was 4 years ago, and I'm starting to lose the concept of time at this point, he had over 700 receiving yards. I think he had over 1,100 scrimmage yards. He was just a really talented, productive player for the Chicago Bears. But unfortunately, an injury's derailed his career for the last 2 years. He suffered a torn ACL, torn MCL, and I think it was a tibial plateau fracture, something wild of that sort. And because of that, he's been out for over a year and a half. So he is risky because you don't know what you're going to get. I don't know if you'll ever get the Tariq Cohen back-flipping, shifty running back that you want to see, right? That's what made him really exciting. And I don't know if he can still do that. But what I will say, and I think it's something that teams do pretty often in the NFL, and maybe some don't do it often enough, and I wish they would, is bet on talent. So if I'm just like listing all these running backs here, then there's 4 of them that I think that make the most sense for the Saints. I think from a talent perspective, I think Tariq Cohen has the most talent because I've seen it. I've seen him play really well on a Mitch Trubisky-led Bears team. And if you want to bet on talent and you feel like this is a high-risk, high-reward move that the Saints can make, then I do think Tariq Cohen's the guy that you kind of take a chance on. And again, just like any of these running backs that I will list, they're not going to cost you an awful lot. And I don't know if you really have to commit besides 1 year. I think that's all you really have to commit to. So I think Tariq Cohen, for all the reasons listed, I think he is a very, very intriguing option for the Saints if they want to go play a little high risk, high reward, kind of go that way. Now, if you want to play it safer, there's other options out there. And one option out there just became available today, and that's behind the fourth and final door. And that's Tyson Williams, who played for the Ravens. They withdrew the exclusive rights tender to him, so now he becomes an unrestricted free agent. Before that, he wasn't exactly going to get many deals because no one's really going to go after a restricted free agent like Tyson Williams. That's not really a guy that you kind of put all your chips to the center of the table and you make a run and you're like, hey, I'm okay with losing draft capital. Like, no, you don't really go for that. But I do think that he's an intriguing back. He's only 25 years old. He's physical. I thought he played really well to start the Ravens season, and then he got put in the doghouse. And I don't really know the reason what happened behind the scenes that transpired, but I do think that he's, again, another name for the Saints where you're not looking for an all-pro running back because you're not going to find one, obviously, at this stage in this offseason. But you're looking for a serviceable back, light in the load from Kamara, light in the load from Mark Ingram, light in the load from either Tony Jones Jr. or Abram Smith, whoever kind of wins that number 3 back competition, or maybe someone from this group out of the 4 I mentioned. Maybe they come in and they take that number 3 spot. But whatever the case may be, you want someone who can lessen the load for the other 2. And I think that's going to happen if they were to add one of these 4. So I'm curious. Tyson Williams, Tariq Cohen, Devante Booker, Daryl Williams. Which one out of those 4 do you really like the most? Let me know in the YouTube comment sections below. And obviously I'll get to those. But I'm very intrigued to know what you guys think on that topic. So let's kind of switch